Good evening, Doctor. We'll be starting shortly. Thank
Okay,
you so
good
much. I
evening.
think your light is good. We can see you.
Yes.
So, and your audio is great. So thank you for
Thank you.
joining.
Thank you very much.
We'll start in a couple of minutes.
Okay.
We'll start in shortly.
Okay.
I'd like to welcome all of us to today's edition of the Nigerian Leadership Series, the African Leadership Group. I want to thank everyone for making it possible today and for joining us. Today we're looking at the state of the nation, interventions and the way forward, interventions and the way forward. And we have speaking to us today a very, very qualified gentleman who is a certified financial engineer, investment banking executive with broad experience and skills in all aspects of equities and debt origination, structuring, execution, syndication, distribution, project finance, correspondent banking, structured finance, securities, trading and treasury management, financial advisory, portfolio management, micro, small, and medium enterprise financing, and private equity funds management. And he has managed portfolios in excess of USD 65 million. This is wonderful. So he's going to send some of that money our way at the end of this program. Okay? He's an alumnus of Are we going to meet that lady?
Money.
He's an alumnus of Abia State University, Nigeria, Leeds Metropolitan University, UK. Well, sorry about that glitch. Sorry about the glitch. Okay. And the alumnus of the Harvard Kennedy School of Government. Okay. And he has participated in key financial sector training of the Euromoney Training UK. Was a member of the former federal government of Nigeria delegation to South America in 2006 on a study tour of MSME financing in South America, and also the founder facilitator of the International Institute of Microfinance and Small Businesses in Africa and the Middle East. He is the founding secretary of the Africa Education Fund and Development Support, as well as the group chairman of Southeast Farms and Agricultural Processing Company, CEFACO. Mr. Doctor, I beg your pardon, Nemeka Obiayeri, you are most welcome to our program, and thank you for agreeing to speak with us and speak to us today. Thank you so, so much. And I know that you must, like myself, be very passionate about Nigeria and what goes on in Nigeria and so on and so forth. And we're looking at the state of the nation, interventions and way forward, interventions and way forward. Maybe we can start by you giving us a quick synopsis of what you think the state of the nation is right now. I hope you can hear me.
Very
and I hope
loud,
we're
very loud and
connecting.
clear, sir. I can hear you very loud, loud
Right.
and clear.
So what's the state of our nation right now?
Thank you so much, Pastor Itwa. It's my pleasure. I'm privileged to be here to take on this session. For me, Nigeria is not supposed to be where it is supposed to be at this particular point in time. The state of the nation, Nigeria is like a child that is supposed to be at a certain level of growth, but for whatever reasons, avoidable reasons, I've had a very stunted growth that shouldn't have been. And to show you how terribly situated Nigeria is today compared to other contemporary nations, I want to take us back to 1960 and 1970 and look at the contemporary nations, where they were then with us and where they are today. I take, for example, South Korea. As at 1960, South Korea GDP was about $3.9 billion. As at that time, Nigerian GDP was about $4.2 billion. As at 1970, our GDP was about $12.5 billion. South Korea was about $9.7 billion. We were far ahead of South Korea. We were far ahead of Malaysia. We were far ahead of Indonesia. Singapore was not even comparable to us by whatever indicator. Even China, the mega behemoth, was way behind us as at 1970. Look at today. South Korea, 52 million people. The GDP, $1.6 trillion. We were far ahead of them. 1970, 54 years ago, we had GDP of $12.45 billion. They were just at about $9.7 billion. Today, 52 million people, $1.63 trillion. Nigeria, estimated population about 280 million people, $252 billion. South Korea is practically 8 times bigger than Nigeria in terms of productivity. Look at it like a man who gave birth to a son and his contemporary gave birth to a son. The guy actually delivered his son before his contemporary. And today, that other son had become a man, taking up responsibilities, taking care of extended family. The other man's child is still a child, still crawling, still depending upon aids, begging as if there is no future. And to show you how terrible it was, at 1970, Nigeria was a leading nation. Today, that little South Korea that was lower by whatever indices to Nigeria, today, South Korea summons all the African leaders in what they call South Korean African Summit. And those African leaders will all start running to South Korea for such summit with their plates in hand, begging for aids, begging for handout. When they had a big brother who had started, who for whatever reason had a stunted growth, who will have been at a better position like South Korea. So that is where we are today. And it's all about gloom and sorry state. No. Can this baby that have refused to grow, can it be revitalized? Can this baby be fed with the right nutrients to make this baby to become the giant that it's supposed to be, to become taller than South Korea, to become taller than Malaysia, to become bigger and more prosperous than Malaysia, than Singapore, than most of its contemporary then? Yes, this nation can actually become great if the right nutrients, constitutional, physical, governance, resource production and control nutrients are given to it in the right measure. This stunted baby can still grow to become a giant. It's not too late. They have not gotten to that level where he cannot be revived, but the right things need to be done. I am still very, very optimistic that despite the teething challenges, despite the fact that this 54-year-old man has still remained a baby in size and in everything, that we can still nurture it to become that giant it's supposed to be. As of 1960, 1963, Nigeria was reckoned by every potential to be rubbish. That by now, Nigeria was expected to be among, if we had 5 top biggest economy, Nigeria was supposed to be among that 5 top biggest economy. As an independent, there were projections that Nigeria would begin to rub shoulders with the USSR, with Great Britain, with the USA. But today, We are not rubbing shoulders with the USSR or USA or even Great Britain. We are now rubbing shoulders with Yemen, with Afghanistan, and with some of the countries that are highly impoverished, highly indebted, and highly terrorized. So, but like I said, in the course of this session, dispassionately, sincerely, I will share with us things we can still do to make this country regain the glory that has always been its own, right from inception at independence in 1960. I think that is just a summary of where I think the situation of Nigeria, where I think Nigeria is today, and where Nigeria can be if we do the right things.
All right. So sorry. I got stuck there somewhere. Yeah,
Okay,
thank
sir.
you so much. I heard all that you said. Now I'm going to ask you two quick questions and then we'll take it from there. So number one is, why did Nigeria not fulfill its potential? That's the first question, for whatever it is worth. And then you did say that you had some things that we think we can still do to take us to where we should be. So maybe you can speak to those two things very quickly.
Okay, sir. The scripture says that if the foundation is faulty, there is nothing the righteous can do. If you intend to build a 20-story edifice and you put a foundation for a bungalow, once the substructure is faulty, the superstructure cannot stand. You only end up creating chaos and building something that will end up destroying everybody. As at 1960, the founding fathers of this country, this great nation, had a very clear vision of what they wanted to do. They had summits, they had conferences in Nigeria, in every other part of the world. Our founding fathers, Chief Obafemi Awolowo, Sir Ahmadu Bello, Nnamdi Azikiwe, Anthony Nahoro, Herbert Macaulay, Michael Okpara, Tafawa Balewa, they had summits. They knew clearly that this country is a multi-ethnic, multi-religious one with diverse strengths and weaknesses that can only be harnessed for us to achieve our superpower, intended status, potentials, through a constitutional and physical framework that recognizes our diversities but harnesses our strengths. And that was how the 1960 constitutional framework was impaneled. It had a very strong regional units, which were the confederating units, and a very weak center. The physical regime was clearly defined. That was why even after the MPC had the majority seat in the National Assembly, the parliament as at that time, naturally by the law and by requirement, Sir Ahmadu Bello was supposed to become the first prime minister of Nigeria because he was the leader of MPC, just the way we have today in the UK parliament. Once a party in the UK secures the majority vote, the leader of the party becomes the prime minister, just like the way Kramer is now the prime minister of the UK. But because Ahmadu Bello loved his north, the north was his own, center. He decided to send Tafawa Balewa to become the prime minister, while he concentrated on building his beloved north. We had a constitutional framework that allowed the regions to grow at their pace, recruit using some of the latent potential, some of the latent natural things that God had blessed them. The North had a massive landmass and they concentrated on developing the agro value chain. We had the granite pyramid of the North. We had the massive cotton field, of course, which was the upstream, the raw material. We had mega textile factories that sprang up in the North. In the old Western Nigeria, Obafemi Awolowo concentrated in building the cocoa value chain. The tallest building in Ibadan standing still today was built with cocoa proceeds. He emphasized the essence of education. In fact, in the old Western Nigeria, there was even a time he had scholarship for 430,000 students. Massive scholarship, not the kind of grants and loans that are trying to provide. In the old Eastern Nigeria, we had a 39-year-old medical doctor, very visionary man, Dr. Michael Okpara, who decided to recruit the out a little group to help him to create to put his visions in the paper form. And for 7 years, from 1959 to 1966, this young medical doctor built the fastest growing economy in the whole of the Commonwealth. Economy that was growing at 9.5% GDP growth. In fact, he had a clear plan, 214-kilometer industrial corridor, stretching all the way from Soka all the way to Ubudu Ranch. Most of the legacy projects that he did then, today are still standing. And in fact, he had a strong regional police force that was so strong and efficient that even when they had problems in Central African Republic and they were looking to recruit policemen to go and make peace, they didn't come for the federal police. They came for the regional police of the old standard because they were more efficient, more professional run under Dr. Michael Obara. And the whole regions were growing. We had massive growth. Insecurity, the kind of insurgency we had today, militancy, people held accountable those they elected into parliaments, and they were answerable to their people. We never had the kind of things we had today. In fact, those who were around, I wasn't born then, but I'm a very good student of history, and I also stayed with some people who were there, my uncles, and sometimes when I asked them, they said, as at that time, you can enter 911 truck in Port Harcourt. All night you will drive all the way to Pambegua in the north or to the farthest part of the north. Nobody will attack you. Nobody will kidnap you because the constituent units control their security. On the issue of resources, the regions controlled 50% of whatever they produced, paid 30% to the port, and 20% was paid to the federal government of Nigeria. The federal government of Nigeria, as at that time, was only saddled with responsibility of providing external security and the international relationship. Therefore, the regions were strong. And some of the skirmishes we are having today, of course, there was tribalism then. There were the issues of religion, intolerance, and all those. Of course, as at 1953, there was a program in 1943, even in 1960s. But it wasn't the way we have it today. And the regions grew. Of course, the military guy struck. And since the military guy struck till now, Nigeria has not regained its glory. It has always been from one problem to another. If you look at the growth trajectory of Nigeria, you will see clearly that we have stumbled from 1966 up to today. I give you a clear illustration. From 1999 to 2024, if you look at the exchange rate parity between the Naira to the dollar and to the pound sterling, you will see a gradual erosion. But I also want us to take an excursion into history. Between 1960 to 1970, even when we were fighting a civil war, the old Nigerian pounds that was changed to Naira in 1973 stayed consistently stable over the US dollar, over the UK pound. As at 1960, the Nigerian pounds, 65 pence of Nigerian currency exchanged for $1 US. It was stable and consistent. In fact, as at 1969, it even gained 57 pence to $1. Despite the fact that Nigeria was fighting a civil war, our currency was stable. Our economy was stable. The economy was still growing under the war. The foundation had been destroyed. And because of that foundation that had been destroyed, Nigeria had not regained itself. Now, what do we do? It is very clear. Any man who does not understand where the rain starts beating him will not know where to go and take shelter or where to recruit umbrella, where to secure umbrella. We now understand clearly that until we fix the constitutional physical foundation of Nigeria, I say to anybody who cares to listen, the mistake we make in Nigeria is that we sometimes, yes, leadership is very key, but the leadership recruitment process under the 1960 to 1963 Constitution was different for the leadership recruitment process that we have now. I'll give you an example. As at 1960, one of the wealthiest men in Africa was Sir Louis Odimegwu Ojukwu, the father of the Ikem of Nnewi. He was so wealthy that even when the Queen visited Nigeria, the federal government had to borrow his limousine to chauffeur the Queen. The man was so wealthy that he single-handedly funded the establishment of the Nigerian Stock Exchange. The man was so wealthy that he was chairman of the top 15 top corporations in Nigeria. Yet, the man volunteered to go to parliament to become a member of Parliament of Nigeria. He didn't go to parliament because he was looking for money. He didn't go to parliament because he wanted somebody that would buy him SUV or to allocate 40 billion naira to himself or to his group, just as we have it today. He didn't go to parliament to be looking for who will give him right palliative that he will divert. He was already one of the wealthiest in Africa, if not the wealthiest. He went to parliament because he felt with his wealth of experience, he will be needed to create policies and programs and help to make legislative inputs that will help to build the great Nigeria. If you look at the class of 1966, from Michael Okpara to Nnamdi Azikiwe to Obafemi Awolowo to Tafawa Balewa, these guys left good names. None of them acquired wealth. In fact, Michael Okpara was so impoverished that he took the intervention of the Abia state government to repair his house in Umuahia. Sometimes 5 years ago, I took an excursion to go and see that kind of place. The man was the premier of the wealthiest region in the whole of the Commonwealth. But he never stole, he never looted. So the recruitment process then allowed us to recruit the best of us to participate in leadership positions. And that time, the perks of office was very limited. Most political officers, we are part-timers. These guys were in there. Politician then, politics then wasn't a profession. It was a part-time job, self-sacrificial job to help to build nations. So that is where we are. And I say it to anybody who can listen. See, Nigeria is a place where we are fixated. Maybe one or two good men comes on board. Like in the 1973 set, we had some very few good men. People like Lateef Jokonde, people like Desa Mumpakwe. It will shock you that between 1979 to 1983, what Lateef Jokonde did in 4 years as governor of Lagos State with limited resources had not been matched in Lagos over the last 24 years. What Desa Mumpakwe did as governor of Old Imo and part of Ebonyi State had not been matched. The governors over the last 24 had not been matched by any of the governors over the last 24 years. These men had vision. These men had passion. These men understood what leadership entails. These men understood it is a call to serve and not a call to loot, not a call to impoverish. And they did it because these men are good men. They were good men because most of them are late. Now, the truth is, these were sprinkled men. These were men, few of them, who decided to live above the constitutional limitations. Today, what we have is a constitutional framework, a judicial foundation, an electoral foundation that only allow, most good men, most competent men are scared to be part of the political process. And the very, very, very qualified and competent and capable guys have gotten themselves bruised. I have been privileged to participate in the electoral process. I was on the ballot in 2015 and 2019. And what I saw made my heart bleed. The truth is, there's no way you can participate in the electoral process in Nigeria today and you play it straight and I work out well for you. And it is so because the foundational structure of Nigeria is bad. The fiscal structure is terrible. We must overhaul the foundation. And do you know that? I'll give you an example. In 1965, very shocking. As of 1965, Nigeria controlled 45% of the global palm oil market. And most of these palm oil products came from the old Western Nigeria, the old Eastern Nigeria, the South today as we have it, and the Middle Belt. Today, that economy, that sector alone is $72 billion sized. And Indonesia and Malaysia that came to Nigeria a century ago to pick the seedlings in the wild from Cross River State, today control 85% of that market. Now, imagine if Nigeria had been operating under the old constitutional framework. And the old Eastern Nigeria had focused in building their palm oil value chain, in the limestone and cement, in coal and coal value chain, and other things that made them tick. Assuming that constitutional framework had not been destroyed and Michael Okpara's vision had been consolidated, today, Nigeria will have been producing and exporting nothing less than $38 billion worth of crude palm oil products. But you know the most unfortunate thing? A country that once controlled 45% of the global palm oil market is today importing palm oil from Benin Republic, from Cote d'Ivoire, all the way from Malaysia and Indonesia. Today, our annual consumption is about 22.4 million tons of palm oil. But our annual domestic production is about 1,050,000 tons. And this is a country that the whole world was dependent upon us for the crude palm oil value chain. And the truth is that most of the governors who sit upon this pile of wealth within their regions are not looking at this, because the current constitutional framework allows all the governors to depend upon the paltry inflow coming in from Niger Delta in terms of crude oil. I give an example. The old Western Nigeria under Chief Obafemi Awolowo built their economy on the cocoa value chain. We had the cocoa board and there was transparency. Today, a ton of cocoa is selling for $11,400. Close your eyes and imagine if the current governors in the southwestern Nigeria decide that in every electoral ward in the southwest, they will do 300 hectares of the hybrid cocoa plantation that is from the Cocoa Institute in Ibadan. If they do it in 4 or 5 years, they will be producing nothing less than $52 billion worth of cocoa, which is bigger than what Nigeria has ever earned from crude oil sales over the last 5 years annually. But they will not do it because the current constitutional framework had made most of them lazy, had made most of them indolent, and had thrown out men and women who are not visionary, who are not thinking, who are not passionate, who are not empathetic to the suffering of the average Nigerian masses. All they see is a place and a position that gives them the privilege to loot, to steal, and to share among the privileged elites who are actually tagged political and elitist bandits. So the truth is, no matter what we may say, from time to time, we may have very few good men who may come into the fray. Men like Yar'Adua, very good man. Men like maybe Peter Obi, one or two, from there you can maybe Donald Duke. You may see a sprinkling of 1 or 2 good governors here and there. But the truth is, if we want to build a nation where the best will be allocated positions, will strive to be, will be allowed to get into position of power and authority, we must carry out massive foundational overhaul. And that massive foundational overhaul must come by way of massive constitutional reforms. Physically, I've told members of the National Assembly who have been privileged to speak to, I said, stop wasting your time, wasting public sector funds, holding summits, calling for memoranda. Go back to 1963. Dust out that constitution. Remove the layers. Let the 6 regions we have today become the federating regions of Nigeria. Go back to the same constitutional physical framework. Remove the Senate. Let the House of Rep remain and let Nigeria go back to the parliamentary system of government where the regions will control their security. Do you know today, insecurity is where it is today because of the current structure that we run? I say to anybody who can listen, security is indigenous. And the most unfortunate, those who purport to govern us today know the truth. But because they want to play to the political gallery, they don't want to do it. I give you an example. And the same model that was B2B, I was privileged at 2006. I was head of project finance in a bank when Peter became governor of Anambra State. I used to travel practically every quarter to the southeast. And for whatever reason, anytime you're driving through Onitsha, you will hold your heart in your hand because they may attack you. In fact, there was even a day I was traveling. They had to stop me. I had to pull out my car radio and throw it out of the window because that was what they were looking for. And I drove away. Then when Peter became governor, what did Peter do? Very simple. Peter understood that security is indigenous. He went to the 177 autonomous communities. He asked them, every community knows the bad, the good, and the ugly. There is no community. When you hear them talk about unknown gunmen in Southeast, there is nothing like unknown gunmen. These gunmen are known, but because they are unlawful terrorists, and there is no lawful terror to deter them, insecurity festers. The people are so scared. They don't trust the government. You don't trust the police. They are so scared. So they are the subject to the whims and caprices of both the lawful bandits and the unlawful bandits. So what did Peter do? Peter called the communities. Donate 30, 50 of your sons for us to train them. And they donated them. Peter went to Innocent, give me 177 trucks. Give me motorcycles so these guys can be mobile. Peter went to Yar'Adua, Mr. President. Mr. President, we've identified the evil forest where these people camp. Send the army to clear it. Yar'Adua sent them to clear it. Every community gated their community. They didn't have AK-47. They only had pump action rifles. And they had communication gadgets. Within 6 months, because the people have been giving back their security, they went from of course, he got the state assembly to pass a law. If your house is used to keep a victim, you will lose that house. If your forest is used to house victims of kidnapping, you will lose your forest. So the people now became strengthened and they went after the criminals. They took the war to the criminals. One of the most notorious criminals in Nigeria, Evans, was chased away from Anambra State and he came to Festac, Lagos, to make his home and headquarters. And for 5 years, Anambra was voted the most secure state in Nigeria. So when you see the governor saying they cannot do anything, everybody's looking towards Abuja, they are lazy. The governor of Zamfara State said it, that if they muster the political will, they can destroy insecurity in Zamfara State in 2 weeks. And I throw the same challenge to those who say they are in power. It's very simple. Today, ISWAP, Boko Haram, unknown government, militant bandits are destroying Nigeria because the government of the day, from Abuja to the states, local government, are doing nothing. They are playing politics with people's life. There can be no productivity in Nigeria. Inflation cannot be slain. Dollar we continue to gain against Naira until Nigeria becomes productive. And we can only become productive when we fix insecurity. And how do we fix insecurity? Very simple. We have 8,809 electoral wards in Nigeria. Go to each of those electoral wards. Ask the community leaders, the pastors and the bishops. You know the good and the bad people in your community. Give us 100 of your able-bodied youths, graduates, I'm not talking about illiterates. Take them to the federal government should recruit them, train them, equip them. We've done the numbers. Between 2015 to 2023, Nigeria wasted $27 billion as security expenditure and ended up spreading insecurity across the 6 regions of Nigeria. This 100 from every electoral ward will give us 808,000 new we call them agro rangers. Get the military to train them. They are not going to be under the military. They will be the national security advisor will be in charge of them. But they will be independent at local government level, independent at the zonal level, independent at the state level. When you train them, post them back to their electoral ward, provide them with AK-47, get Innocent and Nod to do 4 armored personnel carrier in every local government area and 3 flock-mounted machine guns. When you do it, now these guys, what will be their job? Their job will be go to every forest, every mountain, every cave in your community, flush out the criminals under very controlled arrangements. Then in every of the electoral wards, create clusters of 1,000 hectares of agro-industrial parks. Netherlands has only 1.9 million arable landmass, 18 million people. Netherlands last year did export of $124 billion worth of agro products. With this kind of arrangement, is something we have done in the Southeast farms, which I run. We have a program that we are pursuing now to do 18,699 greenhouse projects under gated environment that will cost us $243 million. What simply we want to do is to ensure that the Southeast become food self-sufficient. We'll be exporting food to Lagos and other part of Nigeria, and it will happen within the next 2 years, whether the government support us or not. When you build these 1,000 hectare clusters, government provide infrastructure, do the fencing, do the water, do the road, do the solar lights. I tell you, Pastor, and the rest of people listening to me, in less than 6 months, all this government, all this unknown government, all this is swap.
We can see you.
Okay, no, I'm trying somebody. Okay, all the unknown government we talk about, all the ISWAP, all the Boko Haram, all the terrorist herdsmen you see, when we hand over security back to the people, not like we had it between 1996, this country will become so secured that we will produce 99% of what we consume here and export nothing less than $375 billion worth of agro products. We've taken time to show them. When Bible talked about a land flowing with milk and honey, Bible was talking about the dead fruits. Bible was talking about the dairy products, the milk, the beef. Netherlands in 2023 did over $24 billion worth of eggs, dairy products, and beef. Tiny Netherlands. And I asked the governors, the problem we have in like people want to say they want to go and protest. But we've ignored the governors. We've ignored local government chairmen. All the focus in Abuja. I was privileged in 2019 to speak to the PDP Governors Forum. And I told them, the 19 governors of Northern Nigeria, I said to them, Bible talked about a land flowing with milk and honey. Do you know what that honey is? They said no. I said that honey is dead fruits. Saudi Arabia in 2006, despite how worthy they are, started a process of fighting against desert encroachment. By 2006, they started date palm plantation development. By 2023, Saudi Arabia had produced over $2 billion worth of date fruits. Egypt, 95% desert, is the biggest date fruit producer in the whole world. And Nigeria is the only place in the whole wide world where the date tree grows naturally in the wild and fruits twice a year. And I told them, I said, very simple. If you guys decide today, you're going to set up 2,500 clusters of date palm plantation and the agro park for the dairy centers and the nomadic herdsmen in the north, 600 hectares in every of those clusters, it will give us 1.5 million to 2 million hectares. 2 million hectares from 64 million hectares of arable landmass in the north. I gave them the numbers. If they do date plantations within those clusters and set up dairy centers, 5,500 cows can be housed under such arrangements. Provide solar power and wind power within those clusters. And in every of those clusters, create agro rangers, about 25 of them in every of the clusters. And we will pay each of every one of them 150,000 naira minimum wage every month. In 4 years, from these clusters, we will produce nothing less than $109 billion annually. We will create 10 million jobs, and this security will become a thing of the past because these agro rangers will be fully armed. Lawful terror depends on lawful terror. But these governors are not interested.
They are not interested. So
they are not interested. What they do, I'll give an example. The federal government of Nigeria, the other day, we are thinking about how they will import 10,000 tractors for $1 billion. Average of $108,000 per tractor. But I got a Chinese firm as a private sector person to bring the same tractor into Nigeria at $25,000 all in. And the arrangement we have is a PPP arrangement.
Sonny, I'm going to ask you to take over. But what I want him to do before I hand over to you, Sonny, is this. You've advised these people, you've spoken to them, they're not listening. What do we do? How do we get them to listen? Or how do we get government to implement a lot of these brilliant ideas that you have? And what I'm going to beg you to do also is, if you have a paper that lists out all the things that the different regions and sections of Nigeria can do, especially in the area of agriculture, and how they should do it, I'll be very pleased to have a copy of that paper. You know, take the 6 zones, what each zone can do, and what they should do, how they should do it. That's one. But how do we get government to do all these things that you're saying? How do we get them to reason? How do we get to change our constitution? What are the practical steps that we can take? And then Sonny, you can take over from there, please.
Okay, the practical step is very simple. You know, I said to anybody who cares to listen, all of us, we are not victims. We are all accomplices. We are all accomplices because who are the people that are running Nigeria? They are our brothers, our uncles, our fathers, our mothers, our brothers. One way or the other, we are related to one position or the other. You know, I give an example. There was a time in Israel when Ahab was so terribly, you know, inclined in his own ways. They do know one thing that happened. Ahab had 400 supposed senior prophets that were supporting him, who were telling him the lies that he wanted to hear. There was only one prophet who refused to be brought over, or who refused to be part of the shenanigan, and that was Prophet Micaiah. Even at the time when Jehoshaphat asked, after all the 400 lying prophets have told lies of how God have told Ahab to go and fight a war, he will win, Jehoshaphat was not yet convinced. He had to ask, is there any other prophet here? He said there was one particular guy. The guy doesn't like him. Just like most of them will say, people like us who don't like them. The guy was brought, and of course, the guy knew that they would not listen to him. The guy was, okay, tell me the truth. And he told Ahab the truth, and they slapped him. And they bundled him into prison. But he told Ahab one thing: if I did not hear from God, if you come back, whatever I like, do unto, but I know you will not come back. And Ahab never came back. The truth is, you know, when people talk, and people, I know there was a day I went on Twitter, people say, okay, we are cursing Mahmoud Yakubu. Mahmoud Yakubu cursing day. Mahmoud Yakubu is not the only problem of Nigeria. Mahmoud Yakubu is one person. And I will tell us this story. Nigeria has 176,000 electoral polling centers, 8,809 electoral wards, 774 local government that had electoral officers, EOs. And then state collation centers, where I had professors and PCs who are supposed to be epitome of honesty, discipline, and principles. What Mahmoud Jega read at Abuja, what was submitted across these layers. And I say to everyone who cares to listen, in Babylon, there were only 4 young men who said they are not going to be part of the nonsense. There were professors, there were wealthy men, there were artisans, there were very many chiefs and the great men who bowed to the golden image of Nebuchadnezzar. But these 4 guys said, we will not be part of it. Do you know that if the 176,000 polling officers, despite the fact that the IRF was sabotaged, did not agree to doctor their result at the polling units, nobody will force them to doctor. Even if you force them, they will refuse to submit it. Do we know that if at the ward collation centers, a majority of those who were ward collation officers rejected the few dollar bribe they collected and did the right thing, we won't be where we are today? Do you know that if at the local government areas, those who served as EOs refused the whiff of the dollar and did the right thing, we won't be where we are today? The only way we can change the constitution of Nigeria and overhaul the physical framework that will take us back to the golden era is when we begin consciously and consensuously to begin to elect and support men and women who have the fear of God, who have the compassion, men that with the competencies and the capacities to serve selflessly. And by their track records, you will know them. I was telling somebody who cares, listen, if an Akinwumi Adesina had been on the ballot in 2023, I will back him. If Akinwumi Adesina come to 27, I will back him because he has a track record. But the problem we have in Nigeria is that most of us, even among the so-called big clergies, have elevated our ethnicity and our religion above our God and our conscience. When everyone in Nigeria choose to do right, choose to stand for what is right, Nigeria will begin to elect and appoint men and women with capacity. If we have in a majority men in National Assembly who are doing the right thing, by now we will have easily amended the constitution. They know the truth. But the problem is, the truth you know and you do not execute will not set you free. The only thing that will set you free is to know the truth, apply the truth, execute the truth, and then freedom will come. Most of us, we know the truth, but because of our affiliation, we have elevated our ethnicity, our religion, our greed, our gluttony above the fear of God and love for humanity. That is why we are where we are today. None of us is a victim. I say it. If I cannot convince those within my environment to start doing what is, I think there's something wrong with me and within my environment. And that is what each and every one of us must take out of this place.
Okay, Dr. Biari, let me just chip in. So my name is Sonny Enebi. I co-host this program with Pastor Itua. So thank you very much for your passionate presentation. I just wanted to chip in there. If you say none of us is a victim, let's assume that we are all co-conspirators and we are all part of it. And that's this before I come to my main questions that I want to ask you. How do we get out of it? So you are describing a chicken, the case of a chicken or the egg, which one comes first? So the people cannot coalesce together to challenge the way the leadership is running the country. And the leadership are not willing to change the way they are running. Which one do we do first? What's the order of things in your own view?
The order of things is very simple.
Yes, sir.
Every man in your own corner, make up your mind to do the right thing. I'll give you an example in Niger State. In every other state of Nigeria, professors and VCs, we are collecting monies, we are being bludgeoned, we are being intimidated to do the wrong thing.
Yeah.
One woman, Professor Nenna Oti, said she will not bend the rules. She will honor, she said, she's a pastor. She said, I will honor my God and I will honor my conscience. She was allegedly offered mouth-watering offers. The woman stood her ground. They ferried her all the way to Abuja to see if they could intimidate her. The woman refused to budge. Today, Abia State is having a new lease of life. After 21 years of rapacious governorship and rulership, because one woman chose to be different. Without sounding immodest, in 2015, I ran an election to go to Senate. The day they rigged me out on April 11th, April 12th,
So you
I
have the
called
date.
all my campaign. You say what?
I said you have the date in your head. The day they
Yes.
reached you out.
I called all my campaign directors. We bought campaign vehicles, about 15. I did a ballot for them, shared the vehicles, went to my wardrobe the last month I was there, shared it to them, thanked them for supporting me, entered my car 10:30 in the morning and drove alone all the way to Lagos. Everybody was quiet. I told them, it is you guys that lost, not me. I have a job I'm doing. I have a business. I have a glorious career ahead of me. I wasn't contesting because I wanted to go and loot. The night before the election, I was approached to do all manner of things for the result to be turned in my favor. I told them I will not do it. And I walked away. Nigerians must learn. The truth is, those who know you are a man of integrity are your wife, your children, your colleagues in the office, your bosses, your partners, your contractors, or those who work with you. Everybody claims to have integrity. But when the test of integrity comes, that is when we know those. Professor Noti, imagine if all the 176 polling booth officers, 8,809 ward collation officers, 774 EOs have refused to be intimidated. And I say to anybody who can listen, no man has power over your soul. You only die once. And the truth is, when you live above cowardice, nobody can destroy you. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego said to Nebuchadnezzar, yes, we know that we are about to be thrown into the furnace. We know our God is able to save us, but even if He does not save us, we will not bow before your good image. And you know the most unfortunate thing? People are very afraid to say the truth. Even sometimes when you go on telling yourself, people are calling you, they will kill you, they will murder you, they will do this, or they will destroy your business. I came into this world naked, and naked I will live. When we have this consciousness in us and stand for what is right, everybody is on corner, Nigeria will be fixed. And I say it, none of us is a victim. All of us are accomplices.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Thanks. Great. Again, thank you for your very passionate presentation on this matter. Just aligns with our views on ALG and the way we do things here. We have a few people on the line. They may have questions or comments. I'll be taking them. But let us go into more contemporary issues in Nigeria today. And you are a financial man. I think about 2 days ago, the CBN held another meeting, and the MPR was increased yet again, which means that the cost of borrowing and the cost of funds is going to go much higher, the cost of doing business. While the CBN governor has been trying to do a lot managing the monetary aspect of things, I don't know, how do you think we can achieve an economic stability in Nigeria without the fiscal aspect of it also coming into play? Will the monetary sector alone be able to balance out the kind of challenge we're having today in Nigeria?
Thank you so much for this question. You know, I initially, when Yemi Cardoso became the governor of Central Bank, some of us were a bit harsh towards him. But when you look at Yemi Cardoso and the great things he had done at the CBN, you will see that Yemi Cardoso is like a man that you give a machete, tie his left hand behind him, and ask him to go and clear the Evo forest without any machine, without any tractor, without any bulldozer. 95% of the problems we have in Nigeria are from the physical side. Yemi Cardoso, let me tell you what Yemi Cardoso is doing is what I will do and what any other reasonable person would do. Now, let me explain to you why we are where we are today. The policies of Mr. President, in the real sense, are not wrong. If I am the president, I will have matched the foreign exchange market rates, because that was what made Nigeria to lose so much money. For those who do not know, between 2015 and 2023, Nigeria had total inflows of about $635 billion from crude oil sales, from foreign diaspora remittances, from foreign direct investors, and all those stuff. Nigeria only had an outflow of $451 billion. Go and check the records. So net, we had an inflow of over $184 billion, net positive. So if things were done right, Naira to the dollar, as at 2023, when Bola Tinubu became president, would not have been anywhere above 177 to 190 Naira to $1. But you know what happened? The Naira they printed, the 23 billion Naira, the trillion Naira they printed, we are used to mop up the dollar. And see, what Yemi Cardoso has simply done is very simple. There are several sources of inflow for Nigeria, dollar, in terms of dollar, is crude oil sales. Between 2010 to 2014, go and check the records. Goodluck Jonathan was receiving average of 75 billion, 98 billion, $105 billion inflow annually. We are having massive inflow. Under Obasanjo, we had very, very controlled economy. Obasanjo ensured that there was no leakages from the downstream. We were consuming 22 million liters of PMS every day. Highest was 28 million liters under Obasanjo. Foreign diaspora remittances were coming in droves. We were having $25 billion. But when Tinubu became president, Buhari had totally destroyed this economy. That apart from the fact that he inherited $43 billion external debt, crude oil output was at a very low level of 1.2 million barrels a day. And then foreign diaspora remittances were not coming in because the diasporans have become wary of the danger and the disaster that have been caused to our economy by the Buhari regime. So basically, because the crude oil revenues were not coming in, foreign direct investors have shunned Nigeria, and the local businesses are exiting. The conglomerates were exiting. What did they do? Yemi Cardoso had only one instrument. And that instrument is to raise MPR. And what does that, what did he do? Most portfolio investors are like shark. They go where they will get the best return. And basically what they are doing is very simple. It's not skyrocket. If it's me, I will do the same thing. For example, in areas like Japan, where monetary policy rate is almost at about 0.5%, a fund manager there can decide, okay, pledge his securities, borrow $1 billion at maybe 1%, 2%. Comes to Nigeria, get certificate of capital importation, tell CBN, I am going to buy your monetary policy instruments. I'm going to buy your T-bills. I'm going to buy your 270-day instrument at social rate. The rates we are high. I'm going to do a swap and pay a premium. 1 year after, I will exit. Amy will accept the money because what is that doing? He's trying to get as much foreign currency inflow into Nigeria to be able to at least stabilize things. But that is not the best way. If our crude oil revenue had been coming the way it was coming under Jonathan, if Nigeria had been doing 2.4 million barrels of crude oil, even the recent controversy we are having now about Dangote, we wouldn't have had any problem. We would have been certifying our open quarter of 1.78 million barrels a day, and we would have had enough to give to Dangote and other local refiners. But as of today, we are not producing anything more than 1.4 million barrels a day. If Nigeria has security, Obasanjo did not contend with insecurity, so he was able to build a productive economy. Most of the food inflation we have is because farmers are no longer going to. I'll give you an example. My aged mother, I've extracted him from the village for over 2 years now. When my mother was in the village, I used to give her money to do at least 6 hectares of land. She will invite and pay laborers. They will do 6 hectares, 8 hectares of cassava farm, maize and everything. But because my mother is no longer in the village because of fear of kidnappers and unknown government, that 8 hectares have been taken from the ecosystem. And it is sent in everywhere across Nigeria. Therefore, we are producing practically 30% of what we consume here. Therefore, we have food inflation. These things are not Yemi Cardoso's problem. These are the problem of the governors and Mr. President. If today, those in an NNPC and NNPDPRA are producing 2.4 million barrels of crude oil, Yemi Cardoso will reduce interest rate because we will have alternative inflow of dollar like we used to have under Obasanjo, Yar'Adua, and Jonathan. And that gets me worried. When Tinubu became president in 2015, in 2023, the first thing he will have done, sincerely, will have been to remove all the remnants and canker worms that Buhari brought into the oil and gas industry, from NNPC to NNDPRA. Go and check, from 1999 to 2007, when Obasanjo left as president, we never consumed anything more than 28 million liters of PMS. The madness started under Desiane and Jonathan. And Saraki and National Assembly did an inquest, and they discovered that even the 45 million, 52 million liters that Desiane and Co claimed did not come in, only 28 million, 29 million liters. Even Kachukwu Ibe, when he became Minister for State for Petroleum and NNPC GMD combined, did a forensic study and told us that our consumption daily was between 28 to 35 million liters. But Mike Antibaru and Buhari moved it to 68 million liters. Before you need, there was even a time they told us we are consuming 93 million liters a day, which is not true. If you look at the US, UK, even the neighboring West African countries, as at 1999, the daily PMS consumed in the US was about 1.39 billion liters a day. Today it's about 1.4 billion liters. You could see that for 24 years, 25 years, the US consumption have not moved more than 5%. Same thing for Russia, for South Africa, for Niger, for Benin Republic, for every other country in the whole world. Nigeria is the only place, despite the fact that we had erosion of purchasing power of Nigeria from GDP per capita of $300 under Obasanjo to the current $1,000. Yet our daily PMS consumption had moved 171%. Does it make sense? This is massive criminality, massive Ponzi games. And when Tinubu became president, one would have expected him as an oil and gas person to have cleared. That was what Yemi Cardoso did something. When Yemi Cardoso took over at CBN, Yemi sacked everybody that was part of the Emefiele game. Of course, there were some innocent people that were affected. I feel sorry for those innocent people. But most of the guys there were cleared out. What would have expected President Tinubu as the Minister for Petroleum Resources and the Commander-in-Chief to have done the same thing? If we have removed the canker-worms that Buhari brought in the NNPC and the NNDPRA, today, Nigeria will have been doing 2.2, 2.4 million barrels of crude oil every day. Today, the leakages that have been happening in the downstream will have been blocked. But we are where we are today. And Yemi, and I will give Yemi kudos. If I am Yemi, APR will have been 28%.
But that will further push up the cost of borrowing.
That is, when you have, the truth is, yes, it is going to affect, but do you know that
and
if
it will
Yemi
affect
today,
small businesses more?
Yes, I know, but do that if Yemi today drops MPR to 14%, the FPIs will not come. They will disappear. If the FPI disappear, my brother, where do we get dollars from?
So I hear you when you talk about the oil industry, and let's dive a bit into that, because there's a bit of controversy around the cartel and the mafia, as rightly alluded by Dangote himself, who famously said that the cartel in the oil is stronger than even the cartel in drugs. And when he said it, we didn't understand it. But recent events has unfolded. And I heard you recently on TV talking about something in Warri Axis, a company that has been down, that has been shut. You are strongly advocating that they should be reopened. But let's look at the oil sector. I thought the whole government before Tinubu, everybody was waiting for this Dangote refinery to take us out of the oil quagmire in Nigeria. Now to see a Vatron by regulators trying to stifle him, how can we reconcile that this was the man that we were waiting for? The government can't operate their own refineries. We thought that Dangote refinery will come and take us out of the problem we are in. But now the government is turning against him. Or let me not say the government, somebody, the regulator or one of the regulators, somebody speaking for the regulator. How can we reconcile what is going on?
My brother, there is no cabal in the oil and gas industry. There is no cartel.
Okay.
What we have is leadership failure.
Okay.
See, I'll give you an example. Nigeria is not the only oil producing country in the whole world. Let's look at Brazil. The Brazilians, see, I was like, I told you in 2006, I spent weeks in Brazil with other 3 members under the aegis of the Banker Subcommittee on SMEs, studying on how they finance SMEs, how they do development finance in South America. In fact, the current pension fund that we are doing now was borrowed from Chile, the Chilean model. The Brazilians, the South Americans are not more honest than Nigerians, but the government of the day, leadership knew what to do. I'll give you an example. There is no cartel. Chevron, Shell, Total has stakes in South Africa, in refinery. South Africa does not have crude oil, and South Africa does not even give them access to market the way Nigeria gives them access to market. The first refinery that was built in Nigeria was built by Shell. Why are they not building it? Leadership failure and opacity. We know what to do. If I am Mr. President, because the funny thing is that in Nigeria, when people get to power, they immediately forget that they will exit power. And they also forgot that the only thing that will ink their name in history, like Ahmadu Bello, Tafawa Balewa, Michael Ogbara, Adjacent, Lateef Jokone, if they do the right things, nobody will curse them, nobody will abuse them. What will I have done? You cannot invent the way. What like this? I go to people that have done it better and I learn from them. Brazil is a typical example of what we'll have done. Even locally here, we have an example. We have the Nigerian Liquefied Natural Gas as an example. It's the only corporation in Nigeria that is PPP owned, that is giving us massive profit. The NLNG is owned 51% by private investors and 49% by the federal government through the NNPC. What did Brazil do? The Brazilians, they have about 15.5 billion barrels of crude oil reserve. Nigeria will have 37 billion barrels. Nigeria has crude oil reserve that is twice bigger than that of Brazil. The Brazilians understood the fact that allowing the oil and gas sector to become subject of politics and political play will create the kind of Walhalla we have in Nigeria today. What did they do? the Brazilian government divested from Petrobras from 100% to only 28.5%. Petrobras was founded in 1970, years after the old Nigeria Oil Corporation, which metamorphosed to NNPC in 1977. They divested, brought in core investors, both local and foreign. Today, Petrobras is valued at about $174 billion compared to the paltry $58 billion valuation of the NNPC. Petrobras every year does about $121 billion in revenue. If NNPC is doing $121 billion in revenue, Naira will have been 100 Naira to $1 today. Last year, they did a $7 billion profit. Do you know why? The private sector investors will not allow you to steal their crude. They will not allow you to claim you imported 60 million when you imported 20 and steal their money through subsidies. They won't allow it. If you have, I'll give an example. If you have core investors, where you have somebody like BlackRock, you have somebody like Atedo Peterside, somebody like Jim Ovia as investors in the new NNPC, you can't come and tell them. Mele cannot come and tell them stories now, the way he's telling a National Assembly.
Yeah,
If we
Dr.
do it,
Biareri, but let me just intersect here. You and so many others have ably applauded the PIB Act, advocated for its passage, and all of that. How is it been implemented?
The PIB they passed is not the PIB that most of us subscribe to. Okay. I will explain to you. The PIB they passed is one that was watered down by politics. The PIB that have you bothered to ask yourself, why between 1960 and 1966, was there anything like pipeline breakages? No. Oil spillages? No. But was there anything like that? No. Do you know why? The oil was controlled by the communities. They were seeing the benefit. The PIB that we wanted was a PIB that gives 5% of oil revenues to the communities. See, the communities know where the pipelines are. The communities know those who are breaking the pipelines. Let us not deceive ourselves. The communities know those who are carrying AK-47 and machine gun. If we pass a law that incorporates the communities, where the communities is a very simple thing. If there is any break in any pipe within your community, you will lose your benefit. You incorporate them. You will involve them in the security of the oil and gas sector. I gave you an example of the kind of security. You give them access to the benefit of the oil. Has it not, over the last 50 years, they've been crying of oil spillage? The other day, in 2016, the federal government went there to go and do Ogoni. Up to now, they've not cleaned Ogoni land. If you involve the communities, allow them to participate, do resource control like we used to have it in the early 60s. Let the communities take ownership of their oil and gas. Return 50% of their revenue. Take it down to the community. Let it trickle down to the communities. Not like this criminal thing we have in NDDC and other ministry. We have very few privileged elites are sharing the money. When we do it, our oil and gas assets will be put in. The current PIB that we have is not working. You know, sometimes when I laugh, they tell you NNPC is a limited liability company. How? Owned 100% by the same public sector people. If we want to fix the oil and gas sector, I have told us what to do. Look at Petrobras, look at Aramco, look at Petronas, look at Emirates Oils in the United Arab Emirates. Look at what they've done. Replicate it here. If today the federal government of Nigeria divests 70% from NNPC, that will give us $45 billion into Nigeria, and then do IPO of $20 billion. I tell you, Nigerians will subscribe to it. And that 70% divestiture, let core investors take 30%, sell 40% to Nigerians, and list it on the floor of the exchange. My brother, under the new corporate governance arrangement in place, transparency and accountability in place, not the current opacity there. In 1 year, you'll be wondering what happened, how did the crude oil get to the levels? Petrobras does 2.3 million barrels every day. How come in Saudi Arabia, they have a landmass that is 3,000 of Nigeria? The oil and gas pipeline in Saudi Arabia is 4 times the oil and gas pipeline in Nigeria. If a fly perch on any of the pipelines in Saudi Arabia, they will locate it. In 2008, 2009, I brought a group from Philadelphia into Nigeria that were willing to meter all the flow stations so that no liter of crude oil will leave Nigeria without us tracing it. They did not attend to them. Today, 20 something, 14 years, 16 years after, we're talking about going to meter the flow stations. Does it make sense to you? We know what to do, but what is lacking is the sincerity, the honesty, and the political will of those. They know, because sometimes they call us private at loss, but what you're saying is the truth. But you know politics. But why would people put politics above the welfare, the goodness, and legacy that will put their name and ink their name in gold?
Okay, so Dr. Biari, thank you very much for saying that. We'll have a few questions, but I'll just ask one last follow-up question, and maybe a few of our attendees would like to ask you a question or make comment. I know you have spoken passionately about knowing what to do, and Pastor has asked this question before also. How do we galvanize followership to demand what we want? Because just saying that if everybody individually, no, everybody will not decide at the same time. A few people must come together to begin to lead the charts so that people that see you can join. What would you advocate in that area? In terms of starting with going back to 1963, or if we want to go to the regions and create the 6 regions, how do we galvanize the chart? Who will lead the bill? Who will lead the chart, and who will build the cart?
Okay, like I said,
yes, sir.
Everybody in your own little corner.
Yes.
Be a source of positive influence.
No. Everybody will not start at the same time. That's
good.
No, that won't work. Everybody will not start at the same time. Because many people are hungry. If you give them something, even the protest they want to do, some people are coming to say they are doing counter protest. So you will always have that. You will always
let me tell you something that. Let me tell you something I say to anybody who cares to listen.
Okay, sir.
Poverty is not an excuse to be very wicked. It's not. And I'm telling you from example. I wasn't born with a silver spoon. Maybe people will say, okay, oh, this guy he has not lived our reality, so he doesn't understand. I was born into a family of 10. My father lost his job as an account clerk as a unionist because he stood for what was right. My father's salary, I was barely 9 years old when my father lost his job. We are 10 of us in the same family. My father's salary, in Igbo land, my father believed in reincarnation. My father said I was his father reincarnated. I'm not the first child or the second child. He said I was his father reincarnated. So anytime he's going to take some discussion, he will sit me beside him. His father was late, so he will be looking at me. Whenever he sees me, he sees, because he loved his father so much, and his father was a very upright man, just like him. My father's salary there was 163 naira a month. He only had one motorcycle, Bentley, Honda 175. And there were 8 of us to feed, and my mother. My mother was a stay-at-home wife. My father was offered, what was then the story? Their GM looted their funds, and then Papa wanted to sack the man, and the man was trying to do everything to retain his job, and they went on strike. They came to him to offer him watering incentives for him to call off the strike. The man refused. Before my father, they gave him 5,000 naira and promised him 504 Peugeot car for him to call off the strike. The man looked at me. I was 9. At the age of 9, I knew everything that was happening then. My father told me, Nnam, he called me Nnam, my father. I would not collect money. I was looking at him, moping at him. He now told me, he said, my father has answered. He said, I should not collect the money, that they should leave. That strike was not called off. 5,000 naira. A man whose salary was 100 naira a month and had a family of 9 to take care of. And 6 months after, they sacked him. He lost his job. And we were raised under abject poverty. Go to my village. From 1999 to 2020, when I was in the village, I was in my final year in university then. The first election that was held, it was only in our polling booth that no election was rigged. I and my 5 brothers, we stood. Nobody will rig election here. People were abusing us. You people are poor. You're cursed with poverty. You won't collect money. Everybody has got the money. We refused. Poverty is not an excuse to be wicked, because that was what our father taught us. Nigerians must learn to understand what value. Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were in the wealthiest of men that went to Babylon in captivity. But they stood their ground. Like I said, there's no skyrockets about it. In your area of influence, stand. And when you stand, stand tall. Stand above ethnic jingoism. Stand above religious jingoism. Stand up against greed and the gluttony. The truth is, when you know what value is, I'm not talking about religion, I'm talking about value. When you honor, let me tell you, when they came to him and said, your father and your mother, they are looking for you. He said, those who are my father and mother are those who do the will of my Father in heaven. Irrespective of your religion, love of God and humanity should triumph over everything. And people must be very consistent. One of the things that made me to love P2B, he's not a perfect guy. I ask myself a question. Even me, in my own little corner, I am not as prudent as the man is. You ask yourself, what will it benefit you if you gain the whole world and end up in hellfire? At least both the Christians and Muslims believe in hellfire. That is the truth. So we must agree in our own little corner to stand for what is right and to remain consistent. Your own children will learn from you like I learned from my father, and my father learned from his own father. When every one of us sees that you are not bending, if every of these things have stood like Nenoti, we won't be where we are today. And that is the truth. So it's not a case of, yes, leadership is very important, but followership is more important. When people stand like Shadrach, like Meshach, like Abednego, they were calling him Lord, Lord. But in that particular time, they looked him in the eye and called him, oh, Nebuchadnezzar will not do this. When every one of us stand and refuse to play into this silly ethnic and religious jingoism, Nigeria will be fixed, and that is the truth.
Thank you very much. And on this pastoral note, I would like to bring Pastor Funke Awolowo to ask a question. I totally agree with your passion, Dr. Biaruri, and I agree with everybody, and that's what we try to do in this group that we belong to. We believe in integrity, we believe in honesty, and we also believe in holding leaders accountable. I think that's where Nigerians really need to rise up. We need to hold our leaders accountable. And that's what you said your father did. And eventually he lost his job because he refused to budge to the tyranny of the day. And if all of us can do that, obviously, Nigeria will be better. But like I keep saying, we need critical mass, but we need people that will start the chart. And that's what we're trying to do here. So thank you very much. We'll take a few questions from people and comment. There are a few hands up here and there. Jumoke Akintelo, another co-host, will conduct the Q&A session. And people may challenge your position. They may agree with you. They may ask you some questions, but that's the way we roll here. Okay?
Yeah.
So thank you very much. Jumoke, over to you. Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for such an insightful discussion. And as Pastor Sonny has stated, very passionate. We appreciate your time here. So the way we usually do this is we take the questions in the batch, like 3, and then you can answer them together. I can also help take note of the questions, and then we'll ask you to provide your response to all those 3 questions, and then we'll take the next batch. Okay?
Yeah.
Thank you. Pastor Funke, please go ahead, ma.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody, and thanks for that very passionate lecture. Something came to mind when you were, encouraging us to go out there and all that. And I know that some of us, in our writings, in our speaking, in our participation, we have been fighting. And I'm hearing in my spirit that he who fights and run away will live to fight another day. So while you are urging us to fight, we must be strategic in this battle, because what happened with EndSARS, as some of us have first-hand information, and it wasn't funny. There are people whose only child died in that little battle that we saw, and the government is not even acknowledging the fact that this happened. So we're very crude in this side of the world. And so I'll be calling for more strategy. Secondly, concerning Dangote versus NNPC stroke, the government of the day, one of the things I see that Dangote is going through is, I think we've had enough of his monopoly. And what he's saying, what I'm guessing, through the spirit is that many people are rising. That's why how we are in Nigeria, to emulate what he's done. And he doesn't really, he doesn't want that intervention or intrusion, and so this is what we are getting and all that. I think you should have looked at the pros and cons even before starting a refinery. He's not a newcomer into the Nigerian industry. And so, I think we must be guarded the way we are promoting Dangote. And then we're going to the agricultural side. The nation is calling for, security and more security. I saw that the First Lady, Mrs. Remi Tinubu, was encouraging us to do the subsistence side of things. And it's coming to that stage. By the time you're buying tomato and you're having to think about it, onions and all that, it's horrendous. And we must start. You see, somebody said, we are always looking to the federal government, but it's time, that we reconsider. And I even wrote it on my Facebook page, that the government goes back to the region and they listen and hearken. That's my contribution. Lastly,
can you please wrap it up, Pastor Funke,
yes,
please? We have 4 hands up. Thank you.
Peter Obi, of which I'm a part. But there's some things that he's not doing right. The same way Tai Sholari failed the system. There's some things you must consider, that you're a leader of a party and you are not doing it alone. That's one man, battle that he's doing, is making the party scatter and is making the party fail. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we have Architect Etok, please? Go ahead, sir.
Okay, thank you. As always, it's been extremely enlightening. And I just want to say that I hardly miss this on Thursdays. But there's something that I think that we should look at. I happen to be in government, as it were, right now, because I work with the Federal Housing Authority. And I want to say that the time has come when we must hold people in offices accountable. This issue of the president, I work in a place where the president has given everything that should be given to an organization for that organization to prosper, for that organization to bring succor to Nigerians in a certain area. I want Nigerians to stand up and hold Federal Housing Authority responsible, ask questions, put us on our toes, and get us to work. We are ready. I'm an executive director, and I'm challenging Nigerians to challenge us. The same should apply to the health sector. We can't be political appointees, and we're just very comfortable taking care of ourselves, and then let the blame go to Mr. President. I don't care what this cost me, but I think the time has come when you should look at every single person that is a political office holder and hold that person responsible. Hold your governor responsible. Hold the assemblymen responsible. Hold us public officers responsible. I'm not excusing the president. I am saying also hold us responsible. I don't care what this comment cost me. I'm ready for it. And I want to thank you, my brother. You've been extremely factual. You've been extremely passionate. And those that are outside, please come inside. Come inside, get appointment, and make a difference. God bless you, and thank you. Let others also talk.
Thank you very much for your comment, Architect Etok. I think that's a very good point, and maybe we'll be calling upon you to help draft a script that we can use to help people understand how to hold their leaders accountable. Maybe that's something that is missing. People may not know how to go about it. So thank you for bringing that up. We can follow up with you on developing that script, especially now with the local government autonomy. So far, sir, these are comments, not questions. Yeah, okay. So I'll take the other two. Please go ahead, Mr. Ademola Ogun.
I'm a realist. And in our current environment in Nigeria, it's a systemic problem that unless that is dealt with, there's no way of moving forward. I mean, a typical example was the dialogue that took place in the National Assembly, Speaker of the Senate versus Reti Kingibe, who was asking for succor with repairing a marketplace, and he was extremely dismissive of the good things that she was trying to get done. They don't care. The political elite class, and I'm generalizing here, they do not care about the people. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, and we'll have Professor Grange. Please go ahead, ma'am.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable, for your very insightful presentation. I learned quite a lot, particularly with regards to the oil politics. I believe that many of us don't really know what is going on with oil politics. And I think it's probably one of the biggest problems that we have and that needs to be sorted out, apart from the constitutional problem. And thank you. But my question concerning oil politics is this, that we know that there's so many individuals who have been given the oil what do you call them, allotments or whatever. You know, why were these individuals given? Secondly, what are they doing about, you know, getting Nigeria to become better managed in terms of the oil resources? Secondly, I believe that when we are thinking of holding people accountable, we also need to know what institutions are actually responsible for handling certain things. And the Dangote story, I felt was not a story that was not something that should have gone directly to the president. There should be an institution which is responsible for the mess or whatever is happening, and it should be able to get redress by going to that institution. So those are my two comments and questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Prof, did you get that? Again, they were mostly comments, so if you want to respond to those. And if anyone else has questions, please go ahead and raise your hand.
Okay, let me take the questions.
Yes.
First of all, I want to commend the executive director, the guy, the architects, Federal Housing Authority. You know, he's right. You know, I say to anybody who gets listed, see, Bola Ahmed Tinubu is not omnipresent. He's not omniscient. We are talking about 1,300 MDAs and parastatals in Nigeria. I gave an example. I run an agri business, the biggest agro park in the Southeast. I'm a forensic investigator over 23 years standing. Yet, that did not make me not to make mistake of recruiting a criminal that embezzled our money. The matter is still in court. We're trying to recover it. So, if I'm still a young man with the wealth of experience, could make a mistake of recruiting somebody that nearly wrecked the business, how much more in Nigeria with the kind of MDA that we have? Nigerians should learn to hold leaders accountable at different levels. And you know, sometimes when people tell you, oh, you're saying they will come after you. I have been very consistent in exposing the criminality, the rot across the different sectors of Nigeria, especially the oil and gas sector. And I say to anybody, look at it, the weakest link, one of the reasons why the very lofty program reforms of the Bola Tinubu government is not working is because of the criminality, the incompetency, the opacity in our oil and gas sector. Because the two policies were spot on. When you match the foreign exchange market rate, when you remove petroleum subsidy, two things are given. You must be able to refine what you produce, what you consume here in Nigeria, to reduce wasting $24 billion, half of them criminally looted in terms of importing petroleum, white petroleum product we can refine here. When you match the foreign exchange rate, that simply means you will have to get more dollar inflow against dollar outflow to be able to ensure that Naira remains stable. And what is our average import? Our average import, including school fees and hospital bills, is no more than $60 billion dollars per annum. If Nigeria was doing 2.4 million barrels, as we had under Jonathan, we wouldn't be having this problem. So the policy programs of the government were anchored and prepared on two things. The refineries were supposed to work and start refining June 2023. Output was supposed to go, and it never went up. Where I hold Mr. President responsible, when you employ people, you give them KPIs. Your programs were predicated on refineries working, output going up, so we can have more dollar outflow. When after 6 months, those who were there, who never employed, did not do this, you will have sacked them. That is where the buck still rests on his table. And those guys are still there. And I'm even shocked that even as of today, the NNDPRA boss, Farouk Ahmed, is still keeping his job. In several crimes, that guy will have been fired and even prosecuted, but he's still there. Then number two, the issue of agric. This is the job of local government chairmen and governors. The federal government, by reason of the Land Use Act, does not control an inch of any land in Nigeria, apart from the highways. So what are the governors doing? Like Pastor said, I am going to list out and I'm going to send him. I and my team have developed 400-page working documents across each of the 8,809 electoral wards. Things we can produce in every ward in Nigeria that can enable us to generate nothing less than $375 billion annually from the agro value chain and ensure 99% domestic food sufficiency. Vietnam, 100 million people, 230,000 square kilometer land mass. They produce 43 million tons of rice every year. Nigeria can actually do the same thing. But we don't have any integrated, scientific, clear-cut policy and programs on how, because the governors and local government chairmen are not in any way concerned about how they can slay this matter. So that is it. We must hold everybody accountable at their own level. That is why when I say, oh, they are going to protest, who are you protesting against? Hold your governor first. Go to your state. Hold your governor responsible first. If we start holding our governors responsible, each of them will sit up and they will hold their people responsible. Then the next one is the oil politics. Like I said to anybody, there's nothing like cabal and oil politics. South Africa has refined, they are refined South Africa, built and invested in by Total, Shell and Chevron. Why are they not investing here? Do you know that in 2011, I know of somebody who wrote a proposal to Jonathan. Every time we are doing bid, we are doing allocating marginal field and OPA blocks to Nigerians. And the guy says very simple. The joint venture arrangement that Nigeria has with IOCs, we should concentrate on it for our oil export. But for any local Nigerian you're going to give an oil marginal field or OPL, insist they must tie it to a refinery here in Nigeria. If we have an arrangement like we have in Saudi Arabia, where before you allocate DPR or allocate the current upstream operators, allocate oil blocks or marginal field to anybody, you get them to tie it to a refinery here in Nigeria. If you don't have any refinery with it, they should bring a refinery here. If you do it that way and let the IOC's joint venture with federal government be concentrated on the export, most of the problem we're having today will not occur. Of course, people have asked the question, how can somebody be doing a $20 billion project that will do, and he never took care of, arranging for the feedstock that will supply him? Of course, we understand that. I'm not holding brief for Alhaji Dangote because I have also written articles where I also blamed him for not planning. This project was conceived in 2013 and started in 2017. As an investment banker, I will not sign a credit approval memorandum for a manufacturing concern where I do not have a clear picture of where the feedstock will be coming from and where the off-takers will be going to, where the product will be going to in terms of off-takers. One of the 3 documents I look up to before I sign any credit is one, I must see a clear-cut program on where your feedstock is going to come for the next 10 years. I must have a clear picture of the OEM you have signed, the technical agreement you have signed, those that will operate the plants, and how it will be run unhindered for 10 years. I must have a clear picture of the offtake agreement you have signed, or expression of interest of the offtakers, so that whatever you produce is sold. When I have these 3 clear pictures, I will sign to begin us for us to review the credits, approval, and everything. So while we blame him, we must also ask ourselves this question. Nigeria today has a particular allocation for 45,000 barrels that were allocated. They were supposed to go to local refineries that are not working. Why has the NNPC refused to allocate that portion to Aliko Dangote? I do not subscribe to monopoly. Nobody should stop importation, because in Niger Republic, they produce 2.5 times what they consume, yet they didn't ban import. If the Dangote refinery has crude supply from Nigeria and they are producing more efficiently than the other refineries, they will compete better, because the issue of freight cost, insurance cost, and other logistic costs that will be incurred bringing products from Rotterdam will not be there for him, and he'll be able to sell to Nigeria and the rest of West Africa.
Thank you very much, Doctor. I think those are all the hands that we have up. I think I particularly like your point that we are all accomplices in this, because all these people perpetrating these atrocities against the nation, they're our fathers, they're our brothers, they're our sisters, they're our community people. They live in our neighborhoods, they go to our church, they go to our mosque, and we keep exempting them. And this is where that individual responsibility as a Nigerian citizen comes up, for us to begin to stand and speak against the truth and hold ourselves accountable. We look at it through our own moral compass, not pointing fingers at everyone else. We need to start taking responsibility and effecting change within our own sphere of influence. And I have to add that before I hand over to Pastor Sonny, one of the things that we also do here at ALG is promote that citizens' responsibility campaign, where we just empower you to have the information you need. Architect Etok talked about accountability, holding leaders accountable. You can't hold them accountable if you don't know who your local government chairman is, if you don't know who is at the head of this particular institution, or if you don't take the time to really understand what's going on and be engaged in nation building. Take that responsibility that this is my country, is my inheritance, is my heritage, and I would contribute to it. So thank you so much for your time. We'll follow up with you on that paper that you had promised, Mr. President. And next week, we have Sheung from Budget that will be here to talk about, he would, and I'm going to read out the topic. We don't have the flyer yet, and it is on holding your leaders accountable. So this is a workshop that talks about especially now with the local government autonomy, is workshop in civic tools to hold government accountable. Workshop in civic tools to hold government accountable. This is something that we all need. We need to start that change. Like you said, it's not about protest. We'll protest and we'll go home, and then they go back to doing what they've been doing before. But we need to start effecting change by holding our leaders accountable. Thank you so much, everyone. And for the announcement, same time, same Zoom link, every Thursday. That doesn't change. It's just the topics that change. Back to you, Pastor Sonny. Thank you, everyone. And I also put a link in the chat room for you if you're interested in engaging with us here at ALG. There's a link for you to fill a form. We'll contact you and share more information about how you can be more involved and engaged in ALG, Africa Leadership Group. Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
Thank you very much, Sister Jumoke. Okay, Dr. Biari, as we coast home, just like your final word or your parting shots. I know you've spoken passionately on this platform and on other platforms. What would be your final word for our participants and for viewers that may look at this later?
Final word is very simple.
Yes, sir.
That thing you will not want other people to do to you, don't do it to them. First of all, you have to hold yourself self-accountable. before you start looking at asking another person to be very, very accountable. Third one, in our little rooms, in our little spheres of influence, we must, as much as possible, try to show example of what compassionate, empathetic leadership is all about. Having the right men around you is very, very important. The gift of men is the most important gift we must covet. We must show the love of God and the love of humanity. An example is that of David. David was at the cave of Adullam, running away from Saul and those who hated him. And of course, at that moment of need, he wanted giants and the captains and those that can help defend him. But people that came to him were 400 men that the Bible described as men that were distressed, men that were discontented, men that were in debt, men that you can aptly classify as the worst of vagabonds. They were distressed, they were discontented, and they were massively in debt. This was not the kind of men that he wanted. But what did David do? David became a captain unto them, discipled them, became a model for them. And these men later became mighty men of valor who slew bigger giants than Goliath. And these men fought for him, even when he muted in his mind, oh, how I wish he mused in his mind, I can drink from the well of Bethlehem. He never intended for them to go there because there were 1,000 men garrison there. These three of them went in, slew the Philistines and got him water. He never drank that water. He poured it out as a libation unto God. We must learn in our little corners to live as shining lights and the sword that God has called us, and again, be an example that many young men will look up to, so that even in their own little corner, when you are not there, they will also stand for what is right. And I can tell you, there are many young men within my sphere of influence and circle that I know I can trust that will stand to do what is right. And we must place love for God and humanity above what I call ethno-religious rah-rah-ness. It's an Igbo word of rah-rah, people doing anything anyhow. So you must stand for what is right. And I say it, even my mom that is still alive, my father is late, know that. I told my mom one that said, if you stand against such things, despite the fact that you carried me for 9 months and raised me, I will disown you. That is how it is. Jesus Christ said to them, those who are my father, those who are my mother, those who are my brothers are not Mary and yes, I honor them. I honor Mary, I honor Joseph, I honor Joseph, but those who do the will of my father, they are my brothers, they are my sisters. Thank you, and God bless us all.
Thank you very much, Pastor. You couldn't, you have preached the message. I think at this stage it's right to aptly call you the pastor. But we are very grateful to all those that have attended this Zoomcast today. I'm sure you all felt the passion, and he has given us a charge. Everybody should, pick up the gauntlet and be an example in your own sphere. And that's what we're trying to do. We have youth wing of the ALG, where we are also trying to impact the youth and bring them up to do what is expected. We'll continue this trajectory of building Nigeria. Nigeria is a project that we cannot give up on. We are hopeful that in our lifetime, we will see a better Nigeria. And that's why we are all doing what we are doing without fear or favor. So I really want to thank everyone that has been on the program today. We appreciate the time you spent. I'm sure you've taken 1 or 2 things away. Next week is another opportunity to gather again and discuss issues that are of germane interest to every one of us, and we'll keep gathering. Until then, enjoy the rest of your day and have a nice weekend. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you all for
Dr.
joining.
Bierere. Have a good time here. Bye.
Thank you, everyone, and bye-bye. Have a great rest of the week. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sister Jumoke, thank you.
Thank you, Ma. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, sir. Bye-bye.
Adebanke, good to see you from our youth group. Welcome.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
God bless.
The banker is my beauty. Well done.
Yes. Thank you, Ma, for being a mentor to the youths. We appreciate you.
Well
And so
done,
there is an
Vice
opportunity
Banker.
for you to, so that will be coming out, I think, Albert said in September. So we'll let people know when the next cohort of mentorship will come up. So that's been very successful. Thank you for being a great mentor, both formally and informally.
Yeah. Thank you, Jumoke. Well done.
Thank you, Ma.
Thank you, Madam Jumoke, for all you do. Have a good evening.
Oh, thank you, Blessing. Appreciate that. God bless you. Thank you too.
You too.
Pastor Jumoke. All right. Pastor Sonny.
Bishop Uncle Afolabi.
We will discuss that privately.
Double title. Double
We will
title.
discuss that privately. Pastor Sonny,
Bishop
God bless
Uncle
you.
Afolabi.
Boss, thank you very much. God bless you
God bless
all.
you all. Sister Jumoke will discuss privately.
Yes.
God bless
Okay.
you. Bye-bye,
All right.
everybody. Have a
Welcome
wonderful
back.
and
Are you
blessed
back?
weekend.
Are
I'm
you
back.
back? Okay,
I'm
welcome. Thank God for
downstairs.
joining Mrs.
Amen. Amen. God
All
bless
right.
everybody. Have
Good
a
night,
blessed
everyone.
weekend.
Thank you. See you next week, same time. Please share the flyer.
By God's grace.
Okay. By God's grace. Yes.
God's grace.
Faye, you can end the session. Pastor Lu, please go. Okay. Who? Back office, please go ahead and end the session.